The debate over Canada's gun registry has been highly political in advance of next week's parliamentary vote, and it's been highly divisive. But if you think it only involves Canadians, you would be wrong.
Peter, the National Rifle Association, or the NRA, might be the most influential and most controversial lobby group in the United States. It advocates for the fewest possible controls on gun ownership. But it also sees its mandate as fighting those controls around the world. And we've learned the NRA isn't just watching the Canadian debate, it's been actively involved in trying to influence the outcome.
Tony Bernardo, the Executive Director of the Canadian Institute for Legislative Action. It's good to see you here, sir.
You too. Yeah, nice to be here.
Yeah.
Ontario gun advocate Tony Bernardo is a frequent guest on this NRA chat show, updating American gun owners on the fight to kill the Canadian long gun registry.
Well, it's a very controversial issue in Canada, but most Canadians are pretty apathetic about its demise.
Without NRA, you would be sunk already.
The NRA bills itself as the most powerful lobby group in the world, and it's been helping opponents of the registry here for at least 10 years. Back in 2000, it created this infomercial about what it called the Canadian situation.
And Canadian gun owners believe they stand as living proof that registration is not the end. It's just the beginning of the end.
Cautioning gun owners the registry is a government plot to find out how many guns there are in order to seize them and leave a population helpless to defend itself. The infomercial was broadcast in the U.S., but on a channel available in Canada. Bernardo set up the interviews and told readers of this gun owners magazine the NRA footed the entire $100,000 cost of the infomercial. He says the NRA was instrumental in helping him set up his Canadian lobby group. And outside of cash, the NRA freely give us anything else. Michael Bryant is a Toronto lawyer now, but he spent 10 years as a Liberal politician in Ontario, 4 of them as the province's Attorney General. He says the NRA has been agitating in Canadian political back rooms for years.
I got elected in 1999, and I became aware soon after of the NRA's involvement in the debate, not in a huge way, but in a significant way.
There's no question the NRA has been closely following this latest political jockeying. Its executive vice president recently wrote to members of Canada's largest shooting sports organization to remind them that getting rid of the registry would be, quote, huge on the world stage. But the polarizing anti-gun control rhetoric for which it's known appears to be backfiring here.
Still, we're left not knowing how much it's really going to cost.
Conservative MP Jerry Breitkreitz is a vocal opponent of the registry. Only months ago, he had to apologize after his office issued a news release describing the Canadian chiefs of police as being like a cult for supporting the registry. But that rhetoric has some opposition MPs changing their vote, as NDP MP Charlie Angus recently told CBC's Evan Solomon.
What we're seeing from the Conservatives is they're ramping up with some pretty bizarre and dangerous language, I think, which is creating the divisions even greater.
Bryant says Canadians need to know the role the NRA has played in the debate.
I think for a lot of people in Canada, if they knew that the NRA was part of the effort to get rid of the gun registry, they would think more about their views. And they would think, well, wait a minute, I thought that this was about, wasting taxpayer dollars. The NRA's involved? Really? Oh, that makes me very uncomfortable.
The real question for Canadians is, are they comfortable with an American lobby group having a role in what's become a very polarized Canadian debate? And while clearly we found examples of politicians who've been familiar with the backroom agitating, I'm not sure that the wider Canadian public has known about this.
The links between the Harper Conservatives and the American gun lobby, the National Rifle Association, are nothing new. We have been pointing this out now for several years. We're here to say that the National Rifle Association and its members and its leadership should butt out of Canada's gun registry debate. Canadians should be very concerned about the influence of the largest and most controversial U.S. lobby group on our gun registry debate. This is a government that is choosing to listen to a powerful foreign influence.
Why is it illegitimate for Canadian groups that are opposed to the gun registry to seek support from the NRA or have contact with them?
It's not a question of legitimacy, it's a question of appropriateness. Is it appropriate that the most powerful gun lobby in the world is exercising influence, has direct relationships with members of the Conservative Party across the country, former elected officials? So it is inappropriate for a very powerful right-wing, furthest right-wing group in the United States to have those kinds of links with this particular regime. And if it's not inappropriate, then the Prime Minister should disclose them.
But Canadians aren't robots. Canadians aren't robots. If they don't like what they hear, they don't have to listen.
I agree with you completely. That's why we're pointing out very clearly for Canadians that there is a relationship between the NRA and the Conservative Party, members of that Conservative Party, caucus members of the Conservative Party, and they should know that. It's important for them to know that as we enter this important debate.
Let's ask you about it being appropriate for other American influences, whether it be Howard Dean at your 2006 convention. I'm sure that you were lobbied by many environmental groups when you were the environment critic with ties to the U.S. In fact, we had some of them on a conference call with us last week when Nancy Pelosi was here. Your party has been lobbying the government to start funding International Planned Parenthood again, the international arm of the American abortion provider, America's largest abortion provider. So are those all inappropriate as well, or is it just this one?
No, this is all above board. And I can tell you as the environment critic, I don't recollect ever having been lobbied by an American group. There may be Canadian subsidiaries. If the NRA wants to set up a Canadian NRA subsidiary, then they should do so and disclose it. They should go and get their charitable or non-charitable status. They should get their membership going. They should disclose their relationship with Mr. Harper's caucus and Mr. Harper's party. And let's have a full and frank and open debate. It's inappropriate to have this hidden. It's inappropriate not to disclose it. Canadians should know that there's a link.
So Candace Hepmer, you're the author of the bill, the private members bill to scrap the registry. In terms of what Mr. McGuinty has been saying about the ties of your party to the NRA, to a pro-gun lobby, a very powerful pro-gun lobby in the States, you know, are those connections there? Are they helping you try to fight to kill the registry?
This is another example of liberal misinformation and nonsense. And the supporters of the Liberals and their long gun registry keep spewing this kind of stuff into the public. The fact is they have no argument left to support their billion-dollar boondoggle, and so they put forward complete untruths and misinformation. There's no bias, or there's no basis for these allegations, and I think that you know, the frustration for rural Canadians is really reaching a level that I think the Liberals don't realize. Rural Canadians are told you don't know how to read, you're going to use your money for beer and popcorn, and now we're being told if we believe the long gun registry needs to end, or we own a firearm, that somehow the NRA is connected to rural Canadians and to this movement. It's an insult, and it shows how disconnected Michael Ignatieff is with Canadians.
Yeah, Mr. McGuinty?
We're not saying, Jane, that the National Rifle Association is connected to rural Canadians. We're saying
That's
the National
exactly
Rifle
what you're
Association.
saying.
What we're saying is
Jane,
the National Rifle Association is connected to the Conservative Party, and there's a distinction to be drawn.
You know this. There is absolutely no tie to the NRA and to our party, to our government, to me. I have been meeting with hundreds of groups across this past across the country and throughout this past year who want to see the long gun registry ended.
Well,
you know, you have
really,
no proof, Mr. McGuinty, and shame on you for doing that. You know there's absolutely no link to the NRA.
Why did Gary?
There's another misconception.
Why did he put on a major meeting in Toronto?
He didn't.
And bring in the head of the NRA as a guest speaker. In fact, his keynote speaker.
Sir,
Candace,
you're telling
you
him
have to be honest about this. You have to be honest with Canadians.
Jane, Mr. Breitkreitz did not organize that dinner. He was invited, as was the entire Rural Caucus, which Liberals are members of. So let's speak the truth and not these kinds of deceptive fabrications. The fact is, we need to have a chance to vote on this registry. We need a free vote.
And so, Mr. Bernardo, you have suggested in the past, you're with a pro-gun lobby group, you've suggested the NRA has been helping out in this debate, in this Canadian debate in the past.
Well, if you call helping us design a brochure helping out, yeah, and that was 6 years ago, and ever since then they haven't been doing anything. The NRA cannot be active in Canada. It's against the constitution of the organization.
Okay, Craig.
So there's no money, no money from them. That's what you're saying. That this movement is led by Canadians alone.
Absolutely. We don't need to go south of the border to find people who hate the gun registry, believe me.
You say the NRA has not been active with your association at all?
This isn't about the NRA, folks. This isn't about the NRA.
Well,
this is about Canadians, millions of Canadians.
I was just going to ask, what's wrong with having some sort of association aggressively moving on this issue in Canada and getting... certainly the NRA is a highly successful operation in the United States. We know that. I'm just curious as to what's wrong with it. Why is it so toxic?
I don't see that there would be anything wrong with it, other than the allegations that it's happening are clearly untrue. I mean, this is a made in Canada problem, and we're trying to look for a made in Canada solution to it.